in a typical traditional scenario, I would have a requirement, a textual requirement that says, for example, the maximum speed shall be less than 50 kilometers per second, right? So that's my requirement. And the first level of model-based is that I might have some system design, right, which also has a speed of the as-designed system, and I would say that that satisfies that requirement. But that's very, very informal, right? Not really nice. I can create something which is called a property-based requirement, right? So I can actually extend in SysML the existing abstract requirement stereotype and also inherit from block. And then basically the property-based requirement has the properties of both. It's like a block and it's like a requirement. So why would we do that? We would do that because then we can have attributes in our requirements, right? So I could have an attribute for speed. So then I actually have a model element, right? I have a model element, and then I could say I satisfy that attribute. But now I have a problem, right? The problem is that I have now the attribute, which is formal, but still this informal text, and the text is not connected to that attribute at all. So how can we solve that problem? It's solvable through cross-referencing, a mechanism called cross-referencing, and it's, for example, implemented in OpenMBEE view editor. And to do that, we would create let's say, a requirement document. So we would have a requirement document that has a view, which is a requirement table, and the view would expose the set of requirements we have, and it would conform to some viewpoint that creates that table. So if we create a document from that specification, right, we can generate that. We would get this kind of table, right? And if we show the elements here, you see those little wireframes around that text and that attribute name. That means that is actually a model element. So if I click on that, I would get here on the side, I would get like a specification of what that is. It's property type, it's property value, and so on. So now comes the next step. I want to actually create something which is called a cross-reference from this textual requirement to that model element. So if I go to editing mode and edit that thing and delete that word here and instead create a cross-reference, I'm looking for the speed attribute and I find it here. And the same thing I do for the value. And then I save that. Now you see within that wireframe two smaller wireframes, right? Because that means that this speed thing here is no longer just a simple text. It's actually cross-referencing that attribute name that I have here. And this thing cross-references the attribute value that I have here. So let me show you that that is true. I can edit this attribute value here and change it from 50 to 51. And when I save it, it updates that as well. And this goes back to the model as well, right? So now what I have is actually I have connected through a cross-reference the text. I have basically enhanced this text and with cross-references to the actual model element, right? So now they are tightly coupled. And when I go back to the modeling tool and I look at my requirements here, and so we see here it has updated now the values, right? So it's 51 now. We also see that the requirements text has changed because now it has these cross references. So that needs some improvement so that we don't see all those details. But what we have done is that we have connected the text of the requirement to the actual model, right? And when we update the model, the text will be updated as well.